How far would you go to protect your secrets? What happens when love, betrayal, and lies collide in the most tragic way imaginable? This isn't just a story of love turned sour, it's a devastating example of how hidden truths can unravel lives and leave devastation in their wake. Deshaun Carter was a name people trusted. As a state trooper, he was the embodiment of service and discipline. In his community, he was seen as a protector, a man who upheld the law and kept his promises. To the world, he was the kind of man others looked up to. His wife, Imani Carter, was no less admired. A loving partner and an expectant mother, she radiated warmth and joy. Her pregnancy marked the beginning of what should have been the happiest chapter of their lives together. Friends would comment on how perfect they seemed, how lucky they were to have each other. But perfect is just a perception, isn't it? Beneath the surface of their marriage was a secret so dangerous, so devastating, that it was bound to shatter their lives. That secret came to light during a routine pregnancy checkup when Imani received news that would send her world crashing down. She was HIV positive. Shock. Confusion. Devastation. How could this happen? She had been faithful, her love unwavering. The diagnosis didn't just affect her health, it unraveled her trust, her marriage, and everything she believed in. It became a question she couldn't ignore: where had the virus come from? As Imani searched for answers, Deshaun's carefully constructed world began to crack. Secrets he thought he had buried began to surface. The truth about his infidelity. The truth about his hidden identity. The truth about a relationship he swore he'd keep hidden at all costs. And as the walls of deception closed in, desperation took hold. What followed wasn't just a betrayal of trust, it was a cold, calculated act of murder that left a family destroyed and a community in shock. This is the story of how lies, betrayal, and desperation led to unimaginable tragedy. A perfect marriage on the outside, undone by the secrets no one was meant to uncover. Before we continue, take a moment to reflect: how far would you go to protect your secrets? And how much would you sacrifice to keep your lies hidden? Before we dive into the details of this chilling case, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to True Crime Archives. You won't believe where this story takes you. Deshaun Carter, a rising star in the state troopers, was widely respected for his dedication and professionalism. Raised in Atlanta, Georgia, in a devout and traditional household, his upbringing shaped his commitment to discipline and community values. In 2018, he attended a community charity event, where he met Imani, a compassionate schoolteacher admired for her warmth and kindness. Their connection was instant, and their relationship quickly blossomed into marriage later that year. Together, the Carters embodied the ideal of a successful and loving partnership. Deshaun's career achievements and Imani's dedication to education painted a picture of stability and integrity. Neighbors and colleagues regarded them as the epitome of a strong, supportive couple. When Imani announced her first pregnancy, it symbolized their shared dream of building a family rooted in love and mutual respect. Their lives appeared seamlessly connected, but behind the public image lay challenges that no one could have anticipated. Malik Thompson's arrival at the precinct was marked by his easy charm and ability to fit into any room. A newly transferred officer, Malik wasted no time forging connections with his colleagues, blending his confidence and charisma to make an impression. Described as a personable and approachable man, he quickly gained a reputation for being reliable on the job and engaging off-duty. Yet, as his colleagues soon learned, there was more to Malik than what appeared on the surface. Malik's life before joining the force in Los Angeles was one of contradictions. Originally from Detroit, he grew up in a community where hardship was commonplace. Friends and family remembered him as resourceful, able to talk his way out of or into nearly anything. His divorce, which came after years of a rocky marriage, was shrouded in rumors. Some said his ex-wife had cited infidelity and manipulation, though Malik told a different story, that her unfaithfulness and inability to commit to their shared goals had driven him to end the relationship. The truth, as with much about Malik, was difficult to pin down. When Malik joined the Los Angeles precinct in early 2023, he was seen as a man on a mission to rebuild his life. He presented himself as someone who had learned from his past mistakes, a devoted officer focused on serving the community. His smooth-talking demeanor and ability to navigate tense situations made him a natural fit for the job. It was during this time that he crossed paths with Deshaun Carter. Deshaun was already well established at the precinct, known for his discipline and dedication to his work. As a state trooper, he had earned the respect of his peers and the admiration of his community. Married to Imani, a beloved schoolteacher, Deshaun seemed to embody stability and success. But beneath this exterior, cracks had begun to form. Colleagues noted that Deshaun often seemed preoccupied, his focus occasionally wavering during shifts. Malik, with his observational nature, was quick to pick up on these subtle signs. Their partnership grew out of necessity, as long hours on patrol together provided ample opportunity for conversation. At first, their discussions were about work, logistics, tactics, and precinct gossip. But as time went on, their conversations turned personal. Malik, sensing Deshaun's unease, began to probe deeper. He shared stories from his own life, carefully curated to present himself as someone who understood struggle and the complexities of relationships. This openness made Deshaun feel comfortable enough to begin sharing pieces of his own life. While the details of their early rapport remain unclear, sources close to the precinct recall moments that hinted at the growing bond. During a late-night patrol, Malik reportedly confided in Deshaun about his divorce, portraying himself as a victim of betrayal. This disclosure struck a chord with Deshaun, who had been grappling with feelings of distance in his marriage. Colleagues observed that Deshaun, typically reserved about his personal life, began speaking more openly about his challenges at home, though never in great detail. Over time, Malik's role as a confidant became more pronounced. He often initiated conversations that encouraged Deshaun to vent, positioning himself as a supportive listener. In one instance, a fellow officer recalled seeing Malik and Deshaun deep in conversation during a precinct event, their heads bent close together as if discussing something of great importance. It was during these private exchanges that Malik's influence began to take hold. Malik's interactions with Deshaun extended beyond their shifts. He occasionally invited Deshaun to grab a drink after work, creating a space where their conversations could continue without the constraints of the precinct. Witnesses from local bars described seeing the two men in animated discussions, with Malik often taking the lead. These outings became more frequent, further cementing their bond. Despite the growing closeness, there were moments that raised questions. Colleagues noticed that Malik often seemed to steer conversations toward personal topics, subtly guiding Deshaun to reveal more about his marriage and insecurities. At precinct social gatherings, Malik's attention to Deshaun was sometimes so focused that it bordered on intrusive. Some wondered if Malik's intentions were entirely professional, though none could have predicted the lengths to which he would eventually go. The pivotal moment in their relationship remains shrouded in ambiguity. What is known is that by mid-2023, Malik had begun to subtly flirt with Deshaun. Whether through compliments disguised as casual remarks or lingering looks, Malik's intentions became increasingly clear. Deshaun, caught between his own struggles and the comfort Malik offered, did not immediately recognize the shift in their dynamic. The turning point in Malik Thompson and Deshaun Carter's relationship reportedly occurred after a late shift one evening in early 2023. Details pieced together from interviews and texts reveal how an already precarious boundary was crossed. On this particular night, after hours of patrol, Deshaun was noticeably more withdrawn than usual, weighed down by stress at home and the impending responsibilities of becoming a father. Malik, sensing an opportunity, suggested they grab a drink and unwind before heading home. They stopped at a small bar on the outskirts of their precinct, a spot known for its privacy and absence of familiar faces. Over rounds of drinks, Malik opened up about his divorce and how he had been misunderstood in his previous relationship. The conversation quickly turned deeply personal as Deshaun began to share his frustrations about the mounting pressure in his marriage, especially as Imani's pregnancy advanced. Malik listened intently, affirming Deshaun's feelings and subtly steering the conversation toward emotional intimacy. As the night went on, the lines between camaraderie and something more began to blur. According to text messages recovered during the investigation, Malik later sent Deshaun a message that night thanking him for opening up and suggesting they talk more like this, just the two of us. Investigators believe this marked the beginning of their deeper emotional connection, which eventually escalated into a sexual relationship. The decisive incident that transitioned their bond from emotional to physical reportedly happened a few weeks later. After another late shift, Deshaun confided in Malik about a heated argument he'd had with Imani. Malik offered his home as a place for Deshaun to cool off and avoid going home in his agitated state. Surveillance footage showed Deshaun arriving at Malik's residence late that evening. What happened inside is unclear, but investigators recovered texts from the next day indicating a clear shift in their relationship. Malik texted Deshaun, "Last night didn't have to happen, but I'm glad it did. You don't have to feel alone anymore." This cryptic message, along with subsequent exchanges, suggested the relationship had turned physical. From that point on, their interactions grew increasingly secretive. Malik began offering Deshaun support that extended far beyond professional boundaries, including private meetings under the guise of discussing work. Witnesses later described noticing a change in Deshaun's demeanor at work. He became more reliant on Malik, often deferring to him for advice or seeking him out during breaks. What Deshaun didn't know at the time was that Malik was already laying the groundwork to tighten his hold, using their secret relationship as leverage while manipulating both Deshaun and Imani in ways that would eventually spiral into tragedy. Unbeknownst to Imani, Malik and Deshaun had begun a secret affair. They started sleeping with each other, and their clandestine relationship continued to grow. However, their reckless abandon came with a devastating consequence: Deshaun tested positive for HIV. Malik, who had been living with HIV, had not disclosed his status to Deshaun. The guilt and shame of potentially infecting his lover weighed heavily on Malik's conscience. Yet, he continued to manipulate Deshaun, using their secret affair to control and influence him. As the web of deceit and secrets continued to entangle the lives of Malik, Deshaun, and Imani, the consequences of their actions threatened to destroy everything they held dear. Imani Carter's world was turned upside down during a routine pregnancy checkup when she received devastating news: she was HIV positive. The revelation left her reeling, both for her own health and the well-being of her unborn child. Confused and heartbroken, Imani confronted Deshaun at home, demanding answers. At first, he vehemently denied any infidelity, brushing off her accusations with vague excuses. But Imani's persistence forced his hand. Cornered, Deshaun admitted to cheating but withheld crucial details, claiming it was a one-time mistake with someone he didn't want to name. Imani's instincts told her there was more to the story. As she replayed past interactions in her mind, Malik Thompson's role in her husband's life took on a new, troubling significance. His odd familiarity, the way he always seemed to be around at work events. Unwilling to let the truth remain hidden, Imani took decisive action. She hired a private investigator to dig deeper into Deshaun's actions, determined to uncover the full extent of his betrayal and the person responsible for their shared diagnosis. As Imani's investigation began to close in on the truth, Malik Thompson's desperation reached a breaking point. For weeks, Malik had managed to maintain his facade, but with Imani piecing together the connection between him and Deshaun, his carefully crafted image of control began to crumble. Malik, now consumed by paranoia, recognized that Imani's relentless pursuit of answers could expose not only his affair but his concealed HIV-positive status, a revelation that could bring both legal consequences and the complete destruction of his career. Malik's growing fear turned into a calculated response. Under the pretense of being an ally in her quest for the truth, he reached out to Imani, offering to meet her privately to provide information about Deshaun's alleged infidelity. Presenting himself as a concerned colleague, he claimed to have evidence that would confirm her suspicions and give her closure. Imani, determined to uncover the reality behind her husband's betrayal, agreed to the meeting. The confrontation took place late in the evening at a secluded park near Imani's home. Malik arrived first, ensuring the area was devoid of witnesses. When Imani appeared, she immediately pressed him for the truth, her voice firm with conviction. As their exchange grew more heated, Imani accused Malik of being the true affair partner. She laid out the pieces of evidence she had gathered, his suspicious comments, his proximity to Deshaun, and his overly familiar behavior. At first, Malik tried to deflect, denying her accusations and attempting to steer the conversation back toward Deshaun. But as Imani pressed harder, connecting the dots with striking accuracy, Malik's composure shattered. Overcome by a volatile mix of rage, fear, and desperation, he lashed out. In a sudden and violent act, he lunged at Imani, his hands closing around her throat. She struggled briefly, her cries for help muffled by his grip, but Malik's strength and determination overpowered her. Within moments, Imani lay lifeless on the ground. In the aftermath of the attack, Malik's instincts for self-preservation took over. He meticulously staged the scene to frame Deshaun for the crime. Using a discarded pole, Malik struck Imani's head several times to create the appearance of a brutal assault. To solidify his ruse, Malik hacked into Deshaun's phone prior to this and sent threatening messages to Imani, crafting a false narrative of domestic tension and impending violence. Satisfied with his work, Malik left the scene, confident that the evidence would divert attention away from him and place Deshaun squarely in the crosshairs of law enforcement. For Malik, this was not just an act of survival, it was a final, desperate attempt to protect his secrets at any cost. As investigators delved deeper into the events surrounding Imani Carter's tragic murder, the initial evidence seemed to paint a damning picture of Deshaun Carter. Detectives found what appeared to be an open and shut case. Threatening text messages from his phone to Imani suggested escalating tensions in their marriage. Combined with Deshaun's recent confession of infidelity, the evidence positioned him as the prime suspect. But as the investigation progressed, cracks began to form in the narrative. Detectives conducting a meticulous review of the evidence noticed inconsistencies that didn't align with the timeline Deshaun's supposed actions would require. The first major breakthrough came from security footage obtained from a neighboring property. The footage revealed Malik Thompson, Deshaun's colleague, near the scene during the critical time window of the murder. This discovery directly contradicted Malik's earlier claims that he had been at home during the incident. As the focus shifted to Malik, forensic evidence began to undermine his carefully constructed facade. Investigators revisited the supposed murder weapon, which had been deliberately wiped clean. Upon closer analysis, microscopic traces of Malik's DNA were detected on the pole, indicating he had handled it before staging the scene. This finding provided a crucial link between Malik and the crime. Another significant lead came from Deshaun's phone. Digital forensic experts identified irregularities in the threatening text messages sent to Imani. Further investigation revealed that the messages had been fabricated, sent remotely using hacking techniques. Malik's expertise in cybersecurity, combined with the fact that he had access to Deshaun's personal information, pointed directly to him as the orchestrator of the setup. The investigation's turning point came when detectives subpoenaed Malik's medical records. What they found shattered any remaining doubt about his motives. Malik was HIV positive, a fact he had concealed throughout his relationship with Deshaun and his interactions with Imani. The discovery not only provided a motive for Malik's actions, protecting his secret at all costs, but also established a timeline of deceit that aligned with his escalating desperation. Confronted with the mounting evidence, Malik's composure began to crumble during interrogation. After hours of intense questioning, he confessed to the affair with Deshaun, admitting he had orchestrated the framing to divert suspicion. He also acknowledged his role in Imani's murder but attempted to downplay it, claiming it was a crime of passion rather than premeditated. According to Malik, the confrontation with Imani had spiraled out of control when she accused him of being the affair partner. His claims, however, did little to sway the investigators, who saw through his attempts to manipulate the narrative. The confession, coupled with the overwhelming forensic evidence, led to Deschamps' exoneration. While cleared of the murder charges, Deschamps' life was irreparably damaged. His admission of infidelity had cost him his marriage, his reputation, and his career. He faced intense public scrutiny and personal anguish over the role his actions had played in the events leading to Imani's death. Malik, now exposed as the true perpetrator, was charged with first-degree murder, evidence tampering, and fraud for concealing his HIV-positive status. His manipulative and calculated efforts to frame Deschamps unraveled in the face of the thorough investigation, leaving him to face the full weight of the justice system. The trial began in June 2024, capturing widespread attention as details of the shocking case unfolded in court. The prosecution meticulously outlined Malik's deliberate actions leading up to the murder. They painted him as a manipulative individual who orchestrated the crime to protect his reputation and prevent his secrets from being exposed. They introduced damning evidence, including surveillance footage, digital forensics, and Malik's own confession, to demonstrate preem. Expert testimony from forensic analysts detailed how Malik had forged threatening messages on Deschamps' phone and planted false evidence at the scene. The defense attempted to argue that Malik's actions were not premeditated but driven by a moment of emotional turmoil. They sought to humanize him, framing his choices as those of a man under immense pressure, desperate to maintain control of his life. However, the prosecution dismantled these arguments, highlighting the elaborate steps Malik had taken to stage the crime and frame Deschamps, including hacking his phone and fabricating an alibi. Testimonies from Deschamps and Imani's family added emotional weight to the proceedings. Deschamps recounted the manipulation he had endured and expressed profound remorse for his role in the events that led to Imani's death. Imani's family provided heart-wrenching accounts of her life, her dreams for the future, and the devastating loss they felt. These testimonies underscored the irreversible damage caused by Malik's actions. The jury deliberated for just over a day before delivering their verdict. Malik Thompson was found guilty on all charges, including first-degree murder, evidence tampering, and fraud related to concealing his HIV-positive status. The judge, citing the cold and calculated nature of the crime, sentenced him to life imprisonment without the possibility of parole. The sentence marked a decisive end to a case that had shocked the community and left an indelible mark on all those involved. For Deschamps, the trial's conclusion brought clarity but little comfort. Although exonerated of murder, his personal and professional life remained in shambles. Public opinion was divided, with many unable to forgive his infidelity and negligence. Meanwhile, Imani's family sought to preserve her legacy by advocating for greater awareness of domestic abuse, HIV-related crimes, and the importance of accountability. Malik's conviction closed a grim chapter in this tragedy, but the scars left behind would endure for years to come. Imani's death became a rallying cry for her family and friends, who channeled their grief into advocacy. They worked tirelessly to push for stronger protections against HIV-related crimes, focusing on education and awareness to prevent similar tragedies. Imani's warmth, kindness, and dedication to her students became the heart of their message, reminding others of the life that was cut short. The fate of Imani's unborn child remained a haunting uncertainty. Doctors monitored the baby's health closely, searching for signs of the virus. The family clung to hope, praying for a chance to preserve a piece of Imani's legacy in the life of her child. This story, marked by betrayal, deceit, and loss, left a deep scar on everyone involved. It served as a stark reminder of the devastating consequences of unchecked desires, hidden truths, and broken trust. The tragedy of Imani Carter and her family became a cautionary tale, underscoring the fragile nature of human relationships and the lasting impact of selfish choices. This case reminds us of the catastrophic consequences of betrayal, deceit, and the unwillingness to confront the truth. Hidden desires, unchecked emotions, and the failure to take responsibility not only destroyed lives but shattered the foundations of a family that once held so much promise. Imani Carter's life was taken far too soon, and the ripple effects of her loss will be felt for generations. What would you have done differently? Was Deshawn's initial silence about his truth the real catalyst, or was Malik's manipulation the ultimate undoing? Could this entire tragedy have been prevented with honesty and accountability at its core? If this story shocked you, make sure to like this video and subscribe to True Crime Archives. Stay tuned for more cases that uncover the most harrowing betrayals and reveal the darkest sides of human relationships.